Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Opening Pathways with Tom Lenoble. It's great to have you with us today. I am beyond excited to have Beverly Williams with me today. Beverly has a company, your GPS to employment success, and it's really about how to succeed in finding the right job. And I've had the pleasure of interacting with Beverly for a while now, and I'm going to tell you this. This is one woman that'll energize you and give you lots to think about and is doing great work in the world. Beverly, welcome to Opening Pathways.
Well, Tom, thank you for that very complimentary introduction. Hopefully, I can live up to it. Let me just one clarification. The name of my book is Your GPS to Employment Success: How to Find and Succeed in the Right Job. And the name of my company is Parthenon Enterprises. I named it because I went to Greece and I fell in love with the country and the Parthenon in particular. And Your Employment Matters is the employment development and content development arm of Parthenon. That sounds maybe a little convoluted, but Your Employment Matters. If you Google that, you'll be taken to my website.
Well, thank you for that clarification, but you know how fond I am of that book, so that's why it's top of mind to me. Beverly, tell me, I'd love to know, and I know my viewers would love to know, what sparked you to start your company?
You know, it may sound strange, but I really felt drawn to it because of what was going on in 2008, 2009, when people were losing their jobs. And It was, I think they called it the Great Recession. And I would watch television and I'd see grown men and women who had always worked, unable to find jobs. And when I listened to what they were doing and how they were approaching their 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 efforts, I was thinking to myself, sometimes even out loud, well, that's not going to work. It's like, you're not doing it right. But I thought to myself, I can help. And I don't think it was hubris. And I try to be self-aware, but I honestly believe, because of my very eclectic employment journey, that I had knowledge, skills, and training that could benefit other people and help them achieve success in employment.
Thank you. And viewers, please know that Beverly's an expert in this area. She's actually an employment attorney. So she brings some special things to the table for this. Beverly, I'm curious, when did the moment happen that you knew this is it, this is my path?
Okay, I used to smoke years ago, and I would smoke in my garage so I wouldn't smell up the house. And I was sitting on a chair, as I recall, in my garage smoking a cigarette, and it just came to me, you need to write a book. Now, I don't know why. It wasn't something that I even considered doing. But you can write a book and you can help people, and this could be easy. And plus, I had a client at the time who offered to help me with a radio show, that an advice radio show, or do a segment on employment advice, a segment on an existing radio show. So I was really, propelled, and I was excited about it. But even now I think about it and I was like, how did you get on this path? This hasn't worked out the way you thought it would. But the client who offered to help me passed away suddenly. And that's what knocked me for a loop. I quit my job. I was I worked every day at home writing the book like I had a job. So I didn't stop the schedule. I didn't deviate from the schedule I had as an employee. So I thought that everything would be okay. That because of what I was doing, why I was doing it, and the need for it, because I was seeing grown men cry, not weeping uncontrollably, but water, tears in their eyes because they could no longer provide for their family. Their wives had to go to work. Their children had to come out of school. Um, they were feeling diminished. And that made me think of my father. My father was not a formally educated man, but he worked 3 jobs to provide for his family. And I knew how important that was to especially men, but anyone who has the responsibility for other family members. And I knew because of my motivation that I would get it done.
Wow. Did you have mentors or someone that influenced you to do what you're doing today?
I can't say that I did. It's like it's almost like jumping out of a plane without a parachute. I, it's like you think to yourself, how hard can it be? I'll just write down what I know, write down my experiences. I've had a really eclectic employment journey. I've worked for a public sector. I've worked for a quasi public enterprise. Um, I've been a board member on a nonprofit. I've had all kinds of experience. I've been an HR executive. I've been a labor relations executive. I'm a labor and employment attorney. I'm an arbitrator. So it's like all of this melange of, of work experiences, of life experiences. And I've been in the room as a corporate executive. I've been in the room where high level decisions are made about who's going to be promoted and who's going to be assigned to another location. All of this, I was like, I can help people. And that's my motivation to be in service to other people. But because things didn't turn out the way I expected them to when I began, I've been, behind the 8 ball more often than I would like.
This idea of being of service to others, as you know, is very important to me. And I love that you're sharing this with my viewers. Have you ever doubted your vision and what got you through it?
You know, when I was born, my father cried because he wanted a son. And I don't know why men want sons except to carry their names because fathers always seem to be closer to their daughters. And my father and I were really very close. And I think that he was afraid that a girl might be taken advantage of in this cruel world. So he trained me and programmed me. Anything you want to do, you can do it if you put in the work. If you work hard, you can do whatever it is you want to do. And he would instill just like nuggets of wisdom that at the time I didn't fully appreciate the significance and importance of what he was telling me. But it was like drilled into my head. I remember being in a crib and him telling me, giving me certain advice as a baby, as a toddler. I wasn't an infant, I was a toddler, but he was talking to me not like I was an adult, but he wanted to make sure that I had self-confidence, that I knew my value, that I knew that I was intelligent, and that I could do whatever it was I set my mind to do if I put in the work. And he was right.
Great. What was your biggest turning point on this journey so far?
You know, I wanted to be I wanted to be an attorney since I was a child. And I was interviewed for a legal position. I was very, very fortunate to be selected to be a clerk for the Chief Justice of my state's highest judicial office. And that was the turning point because I'd done well before that. I had a master's from the University of North Carolina. I had gotten a Ford Fellowship to fund that. I got a job right away. But when I was selected to clerk for the chief, that was the turning point. Someone came up to me when I was in law school and said, you know, the Chief Justice is looking for a clerk and we want you to apply for it. And I laughed at them. I had just bought a house. Fortunately, it was a two-family house because I had a tenant. But I said I can't afford that. I went to law school at night and worked during the day. I don't have time for this. I've got to make money. I've got to get out here and become a lawyer. I don't have time for this. And the woman looked at me and she said, "Are you crazy? Do you hear what I'm saying to you?" And I said, "Yes. And do you hear what I'm saying to you?" "No, I'm not doing it." And someone else came to me and explained to me how I could not do it, at least apply. And I did. And when I went for my interview, the chief said to me, "Well, tell me about your family." And I told him that my parents were separated and had been separated for years. And he looked at me and he said, "Do you still have a relationship with your father?" And I laughed at him. I said, "Why wouldn't I?" And I think that was what sold him. It's like, you're asking me about my father and you're asking me if I have a relationship with him. Yeah. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I have a relationship with both of my parents? What are you talking about? But that was the turning point. And there were two other clerks, two men who also clerked at the same time. And we became joined at the hip. And we're still friends. And unfortunately, one of them, who was a peer reviewer on my last book, Your GPS to Employment Success, he committed suicide. And I did not know that he was suffering. And I know that he would not have taken his life if he could have stayed here because he loved his family so much, his two daughters, two adult daughters, and his wife. So the clerkship was the turning point. And when my friend took his life, that motivated me more. I wish that I could have devoted more space in my book to mental health. But looking for a job, believe me, takes keeping a grip on your emotional, physical, and mental well-being. You cannot let what happens in the workplace marginalize you, challenge you in a way that you can overcome it. And with what's going on in the workplaces now and people losing their jobs, I'm more focused on what can I do in the immediate future to help them understand that a job does not define who you are. and you looking for a job has its ups and downs, and you have to roll with the punches. But if you do the work and if you approach it in the right way and you have the requisite skills and you present yourself appropriately as far as the person doing the hiring is concerned, you'll be okay. But you should never feel that you're all that in a bag of chips, because unless you're curing cancer, you're replaceable.
Wow. Fascinating story and words of wisdom all wrapped in one here from my guest today, Beverly Williams. I'm curious, Beverly, during this journey you've been on, was there a challenge that ever caught you completely off guard?
So, yeah. I remember, and the woman who was I was working with, we became very close friends. I became her friend, her mother's friend, and her sister's friend. But we were about to try a case, and we were concerned, and because it wasn't the best of cases, and so the other woman who was younger, she said, Beverly, what are we going to do? And I said, I don't know, but we're going to do it. We're going to get in there and we're going to do whatever we have to do within the law and within the ethical dictates, but we're going to get through this. And so I have this thing with numbers, and 8 is my favorite number, and it's my lucky number. And we were on our way to the courthouse, and I saw 3 8s, and I looked at her. I said, "Don't worry, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. I see 888s. We're going to be fine." We get to court. The witness says something that we had never heard before, and that was going to decimate our case. And my client looks at me. She says, "What are we going to do?" I said, um, I don't think we could go in with that, because if she says that, it's all over. She says, okay, we settled the case. I mean, the client initiated settlement. I mean, it was like she knew we had no hope of winning if that came out.
Got it. Wow. Tell me about a risky decision that paid off.
I'm risk averse. I don't do too much risky, especially not with especially after I became a lawyer. I became more I won't say I became more circumspect, but I live now. The guardrails for me are the ethical considerations that lawyers are bound to follow, whether they be the American Bar Association ethical rules or state rules. I don't like taking chances. I guess I'm a wuss. Um, but I tell my friends all the time. Now, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not, I'm an acquired taste. But if you have to go into battle, I'm the one you want at your hip. So, like my friends who have children, and I don't have any biological children, but I have at least 15 godchildren, I will ask their parent, okay, do we need to ride? Are they treating them right? Are they okay? And they'll say, no, we don't need to ride yet. I said, let me know. Do we fly? I said, because we have brooms. We can we can get on our brooms and go. And they would say, I'm scared of you. I said, we have to let these people know that these children have people who love them. And that's a deterrent. That will make them think twice before they mess with them.
Tell me about an impact you are most proud of. It may be personally, not professionally, but what impact has Beverly Williams made that you're most proud of?
the impact I have on young people. And I don't think adults realize the effect, the impact they have on the young people around them. And I know I didn't. One of my dear friends, and we have different opinions about some things, but I stood up at her second wedding, along with her sister and two other friends. Um, and we're different races, different religions, but you know, we're there's a bond there, and there's a mutual respect there. And her younger son, when he was about 12, 13, maybe even 14, he had his first girlfriend, and he said something to me, and I said, if she stops making you smile, kick her to the curb. Now, I mean, I tend to be glib. What comes to my mind, I would say. And so about a year later, he broke up with the girl, and his mother asked him why. And he said, because Beverly told me to. So she calls me. She said, what did you tell him? I said, I don't know. I mean, I don't remember what I say. I don't remember what I do. I remember taking some of my children to the library or to Barnes and Noble and sitting in the children's area and having them pick out a book that they would read. I remember my children doing something inappropriate and me threatening them within an inch of their lives, because what they were doing was not only dangerous and disrespectful, they knew better. There are things that I say and do and have said and done to young people who are adults now. And they tell me, well, when you did such and such, I'm like, you remember that? I, I that makes me feel good. It makes me feel that I've made a contribution, because parents don't always know that what they've invested, time, energy, what they've invested in their children to teach them to become productive, God fearing adults pays off, that they've been listening, that it's taken. So whenever I see a young person, whether I know them or not, if I know their parent, I will get in touch with their parent and say, okay, you know what? You may not know this, but I saw your child in a certain situation. They were respectful, they were well spoken, they handled themselves exactly as you would have wanted them to handle themselves. And one of my friends cried because they don't know. They're not witnessing what their children are doing. So
Wow.
that's my greatest accomplishment.
Yeah.
I did a TV show once, and after it was over, I took off my headset or whatever it was, the microphone, and someone said from behind the camera, "Hi, I'm Beverly." And I said to myself, "Oh God, who is it?" They know me. I know they know me, but the voice is not familiar. And it was a young woman who lived across the street from my twin godsons and their sister. Everybody, it's either Beverly, godmother, Auntie Bev. I mean, it's like I answer to, whatever, all of those things. And I know when somebody calls one of those names out, that they know me and that
Yes.
I've touched them.
Yes. We're going to have to add wisdom teller to your resume here shortly. What is the next big challenge or opportunity you're working toward?
I am working toward creating a media platform that will benefit people who are employees, entrepreneurs. Um, I I think there's an opportunity to create a source of information and entertainment, and that's what I want to do concurrently with the book. I want to write another book based on I think it's going to be based on the interviews I've done for my podcast, one of which you were so gracious to do for me. uh but that's what I see. At some point there'll be a transition from what I'm doing now to doing that more more on a more full-time basis, but I don't know when that will be.
This is exciting. I hope there's some viewers that are interested in what you're doing. I know I am. What is, how do you share, what keeps Beverly motivated and inspired?
I I know there's a need. These when I hear things, when I hear media reports, oh, employees, they're taking over. The great resignation, they're not going back to the office. They don't want to go back and they're not going back. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, you don't think they're going back? Yeah, they will be going back. Like I said, unless you're curing cancer, you're expendable. Somebody else will take your job. I mean, really, a friend of mine called me and she said she had a friend who whose husband was working remotely, and he received a call from his HR person, and the HR person said, "We're going back into the office on whatever date." And he said, "Well, I'd rather work from home." And the HR person said, "Well, let me get back to you on that." A couple of days later, she got back to him and he said, "We accept your resignation." So now, what do you do with that? If you don't have a job, you don't talk to anybody you work with, work for about leaving the job you have or wanting to change your circumstances that would make whatever you want to do inconsistent with what they want you to do. You get a job first and you say, I have a job, another job. I would like to continue working for you, but I want to work from home. And you have to be careful, because even if they say, well, we'll let you work from home, they can change their mind 2 weeks later. So you're better off taking the job that you have. But I'm serious. It troubles me when I see people who think that they have more to offer an employer than they do. They can be talented, but there are other talented people out there.
Yes. Yes.
And you have to recognize that, or you'll be behind the eight ball.
What are you most hopeful about in the future?
I'm hopeful that there will be more learning because people are accepting what other people are telling them, and even if it doesn't make sense, that's distressing to me. It's like I realize that there are people who have felt marginalized. College is not for everyone, and you don't have to go to college. Everyone doesn't have to go to college. One of my college friends asked me if a person had to be a college graduate to be a guest on my podcast. I said no. But I thought about it. I said, if she asked, then I haven't made that clear. Now, two of my godchildren are ex-offenders. One of my children is transgender. Um, there, some are white, some are black, some are Haitian. Um, it's my purpose through especially the podcast is to have guests that have interesting employment journeys or interesting stories to tell. Like, for example, my dentist, he told me, "Oh, Beverly, my son is a rock star." And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, right. My dentist is a lovely man, just a very lovely person. And I said, his son is blowing smoke. His son's got his father thinking he's a rock star. Well, cut to the chase. He is. His band was written up. What is it? Modern Baseball was written up in the New York Times. I told one of my goddaughters, this is who I'm interviewing. She screamed. I said, "What do you know about his band?" She said that's one of her friend's favorite bands, favorite groups. You don't know. You don't know. This has been a journey that I've learned from. And I appreciate all of the contributions that people have made through their interviews, because some of these people I've known for a long time, and I'm hearing things that I didn't know, and they've given me ideas.
Wow. Beverly, I'm curious if you could mentor your younger self looking back, what would you say?
Say nothing. I have always been one until I got older, and it's really like probably in the last 2 or 3 years. I always spoke my mind, and I realized that just because I think it's true, and it might be true, not everybody wants to hear it, and they may not want to hear it at that time.
Huh.
Um, I would I would say nothing. But anyone who knows me knows if I say nothing, I'm thinking something. And if
Wow.
you ask me what I'm thinking, I ask you, are you sure you want to know? I give you an out, but I'm a straight shooter. I don't mean or intend to hurt people's feelings, but I'll give you an example. One of my young friends, I've known her parents for 100 years. She called me and she said, "I can't talk to my parents. They're going to tell me everything's going to be all right. I need to talk to you because I know you'll give it to me straight." She told me what had happened. I said, "Look, this does not define who you are. You have skills that you carry with you. No one can take that away from you." She felt better, and I felt good that I was able to help her, because she was really it was a very traumatic situation for her, and because she had been so successful at what she had been doing. So it takes a village. It takes a village for young people. It takes a village for older people. We have to collaborate and support each other. We have to get to know each other better. Um, I never thought I was better than anyone else, but I know damn well there's no one better than me.
Wow.
That's the way I was raised. And if people feel marginalized because they didn't do something like go to college, well, did you try to go to a trade school? I mean, plumbers and electricians, they make a bunch of money. Now, mine doesn't. My plumber, God bless his heart, he charges me a pittance. But I know that this is a lucrative business. So it doesn't have to be college. It doesn't have to be um, a beautiful home with 5 bathrooms. There just needs to be something that makes you want to get out of bed in the morning and go through the day and come home and see people you love and care for, or you can pick up the phone and call them. But yeah, this, oh, this is that group, that group. It's not working for me. It's really not working for me. But as you can tell, I'm an African American woman. I've got you're not treating me any kind of way. I'm not having it.
I love this, Beverly. You know, you've shared some wisdom today for many people, job seekers, those thinking of changing jobs, and for all of us, just on wisdom about how to operate in our life. Beverly Williams, please tell us where we can find you and your book.
My book, Your GPS to Employment Success: How to Find and Succeed in the Right Job, is available at Amazon and barnesandnoble.com. It's also available on my publisher's site, Business BEP, Business Expert Press. But if you have difficulty finding them, if you go to my website, youremploymentmatters.com, I will direct you to the appropriate person. I don't have her name with me now, but just let me know what you think. And if you have ideas about what you'd like to hear, people you'd like to hear from, I'm going to try to get some more athletes. One of my clients is a gold medal Olympian from let's see, he was born, I think, in Jamaica, but I think he lived in Canada, but I think he's in Jamaica now. But watch. My advice to everyone listening, whatever your age, whatever you are in life, watch shows like the Food Network, those competition shows, sports analysts, because when you hear people talk who have persevered through adversity and achieved their goal, whether it's becoming a member of a professional organization, or whether it's getting a job in a prestigious restaurant, they've soldiered, and it's inspirational. As I wrote my book, I was really surprised by the stories that I could reach back and include in my book, including a story from a former NFL player who, it's not a commonly known name, but anyone who buys the book, look for that. His is the last chapter in the book, the last few pages. When he told me his story, I could not believe that he became as successful as he did, and he just stepped out of his comfort zone and asked for help. And
Wow.
he's now a vice president.
I know my readers are going to want to read this book. So, Beverly Williams, thank you for being on Opening Pathways today. I am grateful that you spent the time with me.
And Tom Lenoble, I appreciate you offering me the opportunity to talk to you and your audience. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. This has been Opening Pathways with Tom Lenoble. I'll see you next time.